we're talking leadership now, and we go to Rwanda. Rwanda is due to have its election the end of July, and a female opposition presidential candidate has been barred from running, and which makes a mockery of the entire situation,
Right.
in the sense that we're being told that Rwanda is so this story comes from the Guardian, the UK Guardian,
Right.
and it's titled "Rwanda Opposition Leader Barred from Standing Against President."
Right.
The lead is Diana Rigawara, named missing from list of candidates to challenge Paul Kagame in 15 July vote. According to the Guardian, a prominent opponent of the Rwandan president, Paul Kagame, has been barred from standing in next month's election to challenge his 3-decade rule. Dana Rigwara, the leader of the People's Salvation Movement, who was also barred in 2017, launched her election bid in May and submitted her candidacy last week. Her name was missing from the provisional list of candidates announced by the Electoral Commission on Thursday. After all the time, the work and efforts I put in, I am very disappointed to hear I'm not on the list of presidential candidates, Rigwara had said on X. Paul Kagame, why won't you let me run? She asked. The Election Commission said she failed to provide a criminal record statement as required, and that she had not met the threshold of 600 supporting signatures from citizens. Rugwara was also barred from the 2017 race over accusations she had forged supporters' signature for her application. She was arrested and charged with forgery and inciting insurrection and held behind bars for more than a year. Rugwara is the daughter of Asinama Paul Rugwara, an industrialist and former significant donor to Kagame's ruling Rwanda Patriotic Front Party before it fell out with the leader. Do you see a pattern?
Yes.
So what do you make of it?
Well, I thought you were going to read a little more. There's a part that just shows you how.
Oh, yeah. I know the part.
Yeah.
I know the part you were waiting for. In the run-up to the vote, Rwandan courts have also rejected appeals from prominent opposition figure Bernard Ntanga Victoria Ingabire to remove the previous conditions in effect, barring them from standing. There was a part here. Yeah. Kagame's de facto ruler since 1994 genocide and president since 2000. He has won 3 elections with more than 90% of the vote and is widely expected to be victorious again in July.
Right.
He has been praised for putting the country on the path of economic transformation after the genocide, but he faces frequent criticism over rights abuses and intolerance of the opposition.
Right. So here's the saddest part. If listeners have good memories and they just listen to what you just read right now, they will realize that they heard this exact verbatim. And that is the corruption in corporate Western media. And I want listeners who are listening now to try to, jog their memory and say to themselves, where did they read this before? Could you read it one more time for the listeners, starting about when he won the election or something, that nonsense, that part?
Oh, okay. Bear me a second. Let's go back there. Okay, so Kagame's de facto ruler since 1994 genocide and president since 2000. He has won 3 elections with more than 90% of the vote and is widely expected to be victorious again in July.
Okay, stop at that point. So listeners, I'm going to give you an exercise. Please highlight what Brother Adesoji just read right now, or write it down again, and then go to the URL and put it on your URL, and then put the New York Times. And you will discover this exact same quote, word for word. It's really disgusting how they keep lifting this from one article to the next and keep spreading the same nonsensical propaganda. You know, where in the world does anybody win elections by 90+%? You know, obviously it happened in the former Soviet Union, you know, with Brezhnev, Andropov, and all those guys, because
and that was
they
a one-party
rigged
state.
those elections. Absolutely.
And yeah.
So now you, the Guardian of all the publications, the Guardian is one that we have semi-respect for. You're going to just print that without saying that this is inconceivable. You're not even mentioning the word rigging. I'm very disappointed on this occasion with the Guardian. And I might actually follow up with a tweet. Absolutely. We don't expect this from the Guardian, because if we can't rely on the Guardian, Al Jazeera, and a few other outlets, then who do you rely on? So even much more than Kagame, forget Kagame. Obviously, we know he's going to rig the vote. I think the most interesting thing in this article was the surrender by the Guardian itself. And I can understand perhaps why. Of course, I don't accept it. I reject it. They remember how Kagame retaliated against the BBC when the BBC produced that documentary, Rwanda's Untold Story, which people can watch on Venmo. And the BBC was banned from covering from Rwanda for a couple of years. So perhaps the Guardian is afraid of a similar retaliation. And so that's why they're basically printing a press release. That's what that was. That's a press release, you know? It's a big shame. You know?
Also,
yeah, you know, you may as well call it the Kagame Guardian, you know.
Well, that's the interesting thing about studying the Western media. And if you're getting value from watching this, please subscribe.
I'll tell you even a funnier story.
Go on.
In Uganda, the correspondent or the stringer, the freelancer, I don't know if he's on staff, for Reuters news agency. He comes, I think, from the same part of the country where dictator General Yoweri Museveni comes from. So I was reading a couple of his articles carefully, and there are parts that he lifts verbatim from one article to the other. So in a span of a couple of months, he may have 5 or 6 articles, and he keeps lifting that passage, right? And that passage is very similar to the one about the Guardian that is speaking about Kagame right now. They say,
the 90%.
you know, he's won, 5 elections, and he's credited with restoring peace and stability to Uganda, and that he's and for that reason he's popular. You know, it's utter nonsense, of course, because the opposite is true. Bobby Wine is 10 times more popular than General Yoweri Museveni. So, but here's the best thing about this Reuters writer in Uganda. There were typos, right? He misspelled in his praise of Museveni, that part that he misspelled a couple of words. So you can go through the 5, 6, 7, or 8 different articles, and that same misspelling is still there. So that was 100% proof that he was just copying and pasting and migrating it to his next article. Copying and pasting, migrating it to the next article. So I took a screenshot of 3 different dates, maybe even years of his article, and I tweeted it. And I said, I caught you. You just copy and paste. Basically, you're not a reporter, you're a liar. And I copied his managing editor as well. So the message is, people, we can fight back. We can fight back against these corporate media liars, you know.
And speaking of fighting back, this is why we have the African News Review. And so if you find value, please subscribe, share, and like, you know, because like I said earlier in my introduction, the reason why we actually started this program was because of the good comrades book, How Africa is Demonized in the Western Media. And please get this book, Manufacturing Hate, How Africa Was Demonized in Western Media. It gives you...
And if there's a UK or European publisher that is listening, please get in touch with me via mallimadi@gmail.com. That's MALLIMADI@gmail.com, because my own publisher is suppressing my book in the United States. So if I get an international publisher, I will buy back my copyright so I can make this book available. We cannot allow this type of censorship. How can your own publisher? It reminds me of, remember where the great artist Prince was once fighting with his, with his own record label. You know, and at that time I didn't understand that, you know, that well. But now, obviously, I'm not comparing myself to Prince, but I'm saying the principle whereby your own publisher does not want to sell your books. Can you believe that? Here's the deal. When I had an earlier version of the book, you know, The Hearts of Darkness, this version is much better edited, more chapters, and more information, right? But when I had the earlier version, which was self-published, I would go to speak at locations with 100 copies. I would come out with 0 copies. If I went with 50, I would come out with 0 copies. I would go to places where people would complain that I did not bring enough books.
Enough copies.
So in the beginning, when the book was published, my publisher, as I said before, is giving me a decent royalty check. So I know he's doing well. So I sent him a proposal. I said, listen, let's go to leading Black organizations and let them host book signings and bring 100 or 200 copies of the book. Any copy that is not sold, not only will I say, wait for my royalty check and take a cut. I said, no, I would buy it on the spot. I would buy it from my own collection. You know, my publisher did not even respond to that proposal. Just think about that.
There must be something in that same book that it's unpalatable for...
I'm just speculating, but somebody might have pointed out that, do you know what this book is talking about?
Well, I mean, the fact that the book focuses on one major news organization, and I won't spoil it for the viewers.